I thought raising a little bird would relieve my boredom, but it nearly destroyed my arranged marriage. My wife mistook my new pet for a sugar baby, a canary in a gilded cage, and suddenly started coming home every day to check on me. She transformed from an icy female CEO into a clingy little kitten, teasing me every night until my legs went weak. I was confused but enjoying these sudden benefits until she asked, red-eyed, just how good that canary really was. Excitedly, I dragged her to the villa and opened the door. At that moment, staring at the bright yellow, chubby little bird, she turned to stone. Mia Sterling and I were a couple created by a business merger. Although we had known each other since childhood, we weren't close. After the wedding, she focused on her career and I focused on mine. Spending time apart was our normal. Especially Mia, who had overseas partnerships for the last 3 months, often flying off for weeks at a time. My friends laughed at me, saying that being married to her was basically the same as being single. You used to say you wanted the dream life, where the wife never comes home, but the money keeps rolling in, but your wife is so gorgeous. Since she's never around, I can't tell if you're winning or losing, my buddy Jason teased. Speaking of which, Mike, being married is no different from being single for you. Work and social events every day. Aren't you bored? Ever thought about finding some other kind of fun? Was I bored? A little. So that day, driving past the flower and bird market, I wandered in on a whim. I came out with a bunch of white lisianthus and a bird cage containing a round, bright yellow bird, a Gloucester canary. The loud, cheerful chirping from the cage lifted my spirits immediately. I didn't take the canary back to our marital home. Instead, I set it up in a villa I owned, asking the housekeeper, Mrs. Higgins, to take special care of it. The marital home was shared with Mia, and I couldn't just bring a pet in without her agreement. The day I became a bird owner, I shared my joy with the guys. The background noise on Jason's end was incredibly loud, and he couldn't hear me, so he asked me to put him on speaker. I raised my voice. I said, "I'm keeping a canary on the side." For some reason, after I said that, the other end went silent. The background chatter ceased, and Jason whispered frantically, "Mike, why are you saying that out loud? Don't you care where I am?" Confused, I asked, "What's the problem with raising a bird? Can I talk about it?" Jason hissed back, "Is that something to be proud of?" A few days after that call, I started hearing rumors that I was keeping a canary. People would stop talking when I walked by. I was too busy to investigate exactly what they were implying. When I got home from work that day, something fell off the moment I walked in. I looked up and saw a silent figure sitting on the living room sofa. The woman I hadn't seen in 2 weeks had returned without a word. "Mia." I walked over. "Didn't you say you wouldn't be back for another week?" We weren't close, but I knew her schedule. "Don't you want me back?" Mia asked, which was odd. I was confused. Mia opened her mouth as if to speak, but said nothing. She looked pale, so I reached out to touch her face. "Are you feeling okay? You don't have a fever." The next second, Mia pulled me down to sit without warning. She straddled my lap, wrapped her arms around me, and kissed me fiercely before I could say a word. It was an intense kiss. I thought she just wanted a kiss, but things quickly escalated. I struggled, mumbling, "I haven't showered." She just demanded I hold her and carry her toward the bathroom. I work out regularly and have good muscle definition, so carrying her with one arm was easy. But I didn't know what had gotten into her tonight. She was insatiable. Even when I was spent, she wouldn't stop. She kept asking me who she was. Mia, wife, lover. None of these answers satisfied her, yet she kept demanding them. Dizzy and exhausted, I heard Mia whisper in my ear, "You are mine." Of course I was hers, but I didn't have the energy to respond. She was acting like she hadn't seen a man in a lifetime. It wasn't until the next day that I had the energy to ask about her schedule. Mia stood by the bed, looking at me intensely. "The project is in its final stages. I've handed everything over, so I'll be in the country for a while." I was confused. "Didn't you say the project was crucial and you had to oversee it yourself?" Mia hummed in agreement. "There is something very important here that requires my personal attention, too." I didn't catch the hidden meaning in her words. Mia started acting strange from that day on. Theoretically, we were both busy, but she started coming home much more frequently. Usually, when I got home, she was already there. One day after work, I froze when I saw Mia coming out of the kitchen in an apron, carrying a dish. It wasn't just that she was cooking, it was her outfit. She was wearing a black camisole, her beautiful skin exposed, radiating sex appeal. The apron added a subtle, domestic vibe that was incredibly attractive. Mia looked at me and said gently, "You're back? Go wash up, dinner's ready." This was the first time I'd eaten a meal cooked by my wife. Because of our arranged marriage, we never expected domestic skills from each other. We hired people for that. I had no idea Mia could cook like this. "Is it good?" she asked. I kept a straight face and nodded. "It's delicious." Then she added, with a pointed tone, since the food at home is so good, don't eat out. It's unhealthy. I only understood the literal meaning. How can we do that? You're so busy. You can't come home and cook every day. Mia remained silent. That night, while Mia was showering, I called Jason. His voice sounded secretive. Your wife isn't around, is she? No, I said, confused. Why? Jason asked, how's that canary of yours? I quickly praised her. The canary? She's great. She rubs her head against my hand to be petted now. Every bird has a different personality, and mine just happens to be the affectionate type. Mike, I didn't know you were into that type. Jason let out a slightly creepy laugh. Don't say I don't support you, but you are married. Even if it's a loveless business arrangement, keeping something like that on the side, you'd better hide it well. Hide what? I was about to ask what there was to hide when I heard footsteps behind me. Mia had finished her shower and walked out wrapped in a towel. I watched a crystal clear drop of water slide from her collarbone down to her chest. A silent, sexy moment. Who are you talking to? She asked. Jason, I said, showing her my phone screen, only to realize Jason had hung up at some point. Mia glanced at my screen, said nothing, took the phone from my hand, and turned it off. She leaned in close, her beautiful face filling my vision. Then she took my hand, pressed it against her cheek, and nuzzled it gently. While she nuzzled my hand, her eyes remained locked on mine. Do you like that type? She asked. My mind went blank, and I barely heard what she said. Mia and I were in an arranged marriage, but we were a real couple fulfilling our marital duties. Still, I never expected the usually composed Mia to act like this. Mia, did you hear my call? Her eyes darkened, and she frowned, taking a deep breath. Mike, if you like that, I can do it too. Don't go looking outside. Mia probably didn't realize how sexy she looked right then. I only caught the first half of her sentence. The next second, her kiss overwhelmed me. In the heat of the moment, I wondered. I was talking about a bird on the phone. Why was Mia jealous of a bird? Did she really dislike birds that much? I decided right then to abandon any thought of bringing the canary home. That night was different. She was incredibly clingy, whispering things in my ear that drove me wild. She used to be quiet in bed, but now every word was filthy. I drowned in a mix of unbearable shame and pleasure. Who changed my wife's settings? Mia's tactics multiplied. Not only was she coming home often, but she was also obsessively checking my schedule. One day after work, I went to my private villa to play with the bird. The little thing had grown round and chubby. Even though I wasn't the one feeding it daily, it still happily flew onto my hand. I didn't keep it in a cage. I had an ecological bird room built for it, complete with plants, sunlight, and climate control. When Mia called, I was playing with the bird. Such a good baby, so attached to your master, aren't you? The call was already connected. Mia was silent for a long moment before asking, where are you? My wife had been so clingy lately that I assumed she was checking up on me. So I said, I'll be right home. Mia was silent again for a long time before finally saying, okay. That night, in the throes of passion, she whispered in my ear with a shameful, suppressed voice, Master, am I doing a good job? My eyes went wide, and a wave of silent, overwhelming shame washed over me. I couldn't fathom why my wife of 6 months had turned into this. It was like she was possessed by a succubus. Hearing that title, I completely surrendered. In my daze, I heard her whisper a complaint. Why didn't you call me baby? I was so sleepy that it felt like part of a dream. My wife's tricks were getting more varied, sometimes to the point where I couldn't keep up. With so many social events lately, I came home late one night, a bit drunk. Mia made hangover soup and fed it to me sweetly. I looked up at her and noticed her expression was gloomy. In my drunken state, I didn't think much of it. I reached out to smooth the furrow in her brow. Don't frown. Mia supported me, looking unhappy. Why did you get so drunk? I cupped her face, studied it for a moment, and smiled. Honey, it hurts. A few seconds later, I heard her sigh softly. Why have you been sighing so much lately? I asked. Her answer came after a pause. Because I despise myself. I was confused. You're so wonderful. Why would you despise yourself? Mia had always been the golden child, the one everyone envied. I couldn't understand why she was being so humble bragging. Suddenly, she asked, do you love me? Do you? We weren't in bed, and for a moment, I didn't know how to answer. I liked her, certainly, but I wasn't sure if it reached the level of love. While I hesitated, Mia moved on. She knelt to take off my shoes and help me in the bathroom. I used to be embarrassed letting her bathe me, but Mia's high drive meant that often, after sex, I was too tired to move and she would clean me up. Again and again. Habit is a terrifying thing. I loved Mia's kisses. They were always tender. But tonight, she didn't kiss me right away. Through my drunken haze, I saw her approaching with my tie in her hand. She stroked my wrist with her thumb and whispered, shall we play a game tonight? I pointed to the tie. Are you going to tie me up? "May I?" she asked softly. I shook my head. "I don't want to." Mia stopped. She looked at me for a long time, then suddenly asked, "Then will you tie me up?" "Tie Mia to the headboard?" Meeting her dark gaze, I nodded as if possessed. Mia, with her hands bound, looked like she was mine to do with as I pleased, triggering an intense desire for control. I didn't think I was a bad man, but the alcohol must have eroded my inhibitions tonight. I desperately wanted to see her lose control. She had also prepared a black ribbon, and I used it to blindfold her. Since she couldn't see me, I let go of my restraint. It was a chaotic night. When I woke up the next day, the memories made me want to pull the covers over my head, especially when I saw the red marks on Mia's wrists. How could I be that kind of person? But Mia, bound and blindfolded last night, was incredibly sexy. Her blazer hid the marks, but the thought of her going to work covered in them, being the ruthless CEO she was, made my heart race with excitement. I was a little bad. In my view, our marriage was getting on the right track. We were happy enough, even if Mia was a bit clingy and demanding. There was a public charity gala coming up, and we would both be attending to represent our respective families. I wore a custom suit, the watch Mia gave me when she returned, and my wedding ring. The gala was crowded, but it hadn't officially started yet. I looked around for my wife and finally found her in a corner with her two friends, Sarah and Emily. They were chattering away at Mia. Maybe it was my imagination, but they looked frustrated with her. As I approached, Sarah saw me first and stepped toward me aggressively, as if she wanted to start an argument. I didn't interact much with Sarah or Emily, and we had no business dealings, so I had no idea why they would be hostile. My confusion remained unresolved because Mia pulled Sarah back. I don't know what she said, but Sarah stopped, though her expression remained icy. Mia walked over to me. "Did Sarah and Emily say something to you? Is it about me?" I asked, confused. Mia didn't explain. "Just a misunderstanding. Don't worry about it." But she didn't say what the misunderstanding was, and she clearly had something on her mind. At the charity gala, we were both big spenders. Then the auctioneer introduced the next item, a painting by the famous artist William Wentworth. Today, we have Mr. Wentworth here to share his inspiration for this piece. Please welcome him. I froze when I heard the name. When William walked onto the stage in a white suit, I knew I hadn't guessed wrong. I couldn't help but glance sideways. William Wentworth, the scion of a prestigious artistic family. If I remembered correctly, he and Mia grew up together. There had been talk of a marriage alliance between their families, but it fizzled out for some reason, and William went abroad shortly after. I hadn't heard a whisper about William returning to the country. Before Mia and I got married, he must have been closer to her. The young man on stage spoke eloquently, exuding an air of scholarly refinement and artistic flair. We were polar opposites. I was ambitious. My marriage wasn't for love, but for my career. Mia just happened to be the best choice available. Neither Mia nor I bid on the painting, but I was certain the man on stage had his eyes on her. Of course, the painting still sold for a high price. Throughout the gala, especially after William appeared, more eyes turned toward Mia and me. I knew people love gossip, so I ignored it. But when I checked my phone, I saw an acquaintance had posted a photo with William, captioned, "The noble son returns to bravely pursue his love." Pursue his love? Me? Holding my champagne, I scanned the room and realized both Mia and William had disappeared from my view. After a moment's hesitation, I immediately started looking for them. Mia could like someone else. She could even pine for someone else, but she could not cheat. I couldn't afford that humiliation. When I found her, she was indeed with William. They were standing alone in a corridor corner, and he looked red-eyed. I was too far away to see Mia's face, but I caught the phrase cheating wife. As I got closer, I heard her say, "There's no such thing. You've misunderstood, and it's none of your business." I stopped a few steps away and called out, "Honey." Mia turned around, her expression finally softening when she saw me. Ignoring her red-eyed childhood friend, she walked over to me, took my hand, and led me away. "You just leaving like that?" I asked. "How else should I leave?" she replied. I leaned in and whispered, "He looks like he's about to cry." "What does that have to do with us?" Mia asked. She said us. I was confused again. Mia didn't look like she was having an affair with William. "He likes you," I stated with certainty. Mia didn't deny it. Instead, she snorted coldly, as if thinking of something else. People who try to be homewreckers are pathetic. Her moral compass was that straight. I glanced at her, curious. "Why didn't you two end up together?" I remember the Sterlings and Wentworths discussing a marriage alliance a couple of years ago. "I didn't like him," Mia said flatly. "But wouldn't a marriage with him be a business arrangement too, just like with me?" Liking him shouldn't have mattered, I asked, confused. I could tell Mia was in a bad mood, maybe since before the gala, or maybe since William showed up. She had drunk quite a bit. Back home, she leaned on my shoulder hovering between drunk and sober. As a husband, it was my duty to care about my wife's feelings. So I asked, "What's been going on with you lately?" Mia looked up at me. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she had been deeply wronged. She stared at me for a long time before finally asking, "Mike, when will you take me to see the canary you're keeping? What is so good about her? What makes her so special?" The canary? How did Mia know about that? Since I realized she might hate birds, I hadn't planned to mention it. We were in an arranged marriage. What was wrong with me secretly keeping a bird? I paused for a moment before asking, "Do you want to see it?" "Yes." Mia lowered her eyes. I grabbed her hand, calling the driver who had just left, and pulled her up. "Let's go see her right now." Heaven knows how cute my little bird is. I hadn't posted about it on social media because I was afraid Mia wouldn't like it. I'd only mentioned it to Jason. He didn't seem to approve of me raising a bird either. I sent him a photo once, and he replied, "Where'd you get that fat chicken?" "It's not fat. It's just fluffily cute." Mia was gloomy the whole way, but as we approached, she suddenly said, "I remember this is the villa you used to live in. You let her live here." "Yeah, what's the problem?" I asked, confused. Did Mia dislike it that much? Was I supposed to kick my bird out? It was just a bird. Sure, it was a bit noisy, but what did the bird do wrong? Mia said gloomily, "I've never even been here." I didn't understand. I had multiple properties. She just hadn't been to this specific house. She'd been to the others. Getting out of the car, Mia, ever the proper lady, insisted on interlacing her fingers with mine before walking in. Mrs. Higgins, woken by our arrival, greeted us and went back to bed. Mia complained again. "You even hired someone specifically to take care of her?" I finally understood. She was jealous. But why be jealous of a round little bird? Are drunk women this unreasonable? I dragged Mia straight to the ecological bird room in the backyard and opened the door. The bird room was spacious. As soon as we entered, a chirp came from a branch, followed by a long string of bird songs. It was pleasant, if a bit loud. The bright yellow little creature fluttered its wings and landed on my palm. I presented the bird to Mia like a treasure. "Look, isn't she cute?" Mia froze, turning to stone. "This is the canary you're raising?" "A Gloucester canary." I petted the bird's head. It looked fluffier than before. I'd have to tell Mrs. Higgins to watch its diet. "Why were you so secretive about raising a bird?" Mia asked in disbelief. I looked at her, then at my cute bird. "Didn't I hear you hate canaries?" "I kept it here, so I could just visit occasionally." Mia stared at the bird in my hand, mumbling, "I thought it was—" I narrowed my eyes. "You thought it was what?" Even I could tell she meant a different kind of canary. Mia remained silent. I stared at her. The woman who was usually so decisive in business now looked guilty. After much questioning, I finally got the truth out of her. "So you came back early and stayed home all the time because you thought I was keeping a mistress?" I had noticed Mia's changes, coming home more, being clingy, but I hadn't read too much into it. "Why didn't you tell me the day you came back?" I asked, confused. Mia looked at me with a different emotion. I was afraid. Her eyes were still red as she buried her face in my chest. "If I confronted you, what if you chose her over me?" Hearing this, I really wanted to shake some sense into her. "You're my wife. Who else would I choose?" I sighed, deflated. "Forget it. I'm at fault too." I thought she hated birds. She thought I had a lover. Because of the arranged marriage label, neither of us had asked enough questions. We had a serious communication problem. The bird, settled in its nest, chirped for a long time. Cute. We went upstairs, not planning to leave. My old bedroom was clean and ready, but there were no women's clothes, so I lent Mia my towel. It was late, so I went to the bathroom without saying much. As soon as I came out, arms wrapped around my waist. Mia whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have misunderstood you. If you're angry, you can hit me or scold me, but please don't ignore me." She smelled fresh from the shower, wearing only a towel. She was beautiful. I couldn't tell if she was apologizing or seducing me. "Mia, sit down." I sat her on the bed and looked her in the eye. "If you thought I was cheating, what was all this about lately?" Mia looked back at me, her voice low. "I was trying to make you return to the family through my efforts. So all the seduction was to show me that the wife is better than the mistress?" I looked at her. "Do you really think I'm that morally bankrupt?" Mia apologized again. "I'm sorry." I stared at her for a long time before asking, "Mia, do you like me?" A marriage can work on mutual benefit alone, but feelings can't be forced. We started by discussing the benefits of our union. We had an agreement. If either of us found love, we would divorce amicably. But Mia was perfect. She handled every wedding detail and fulfilled every duty as a wife, despite her busy schedule. As for our intimacy, it happened naturally, and I was very satisfied with Mia, even without a foundation of love. Then I heard her say, "Yes, I like you." Mia held my hand and whispered, "We're married." Even if someone else caught your attention, It must be your fault. I was afraid that if I confronted you, there would be no turning back. She looked me in the eye. I was stunned. Mia was a proud woman. I never imagined she could be so humble. She stood up on the bed, nuzzled my nose, and kissed my lips. Mike, you could be angry. You can punish me, but don't leave me. I paused. I was wrong too. I shouldn't have asked others about your likes and dislikes. I should have asked you. If I had been clear from the start, this misunderstanding wouldn't have lasted so long. We needed to be more honest. Mia kissed me again, her lips soft and lingering. It was my fault, she said. Admitting mistakes and asking for forgiveness is hard for many adults, but Mia did it naturally as she pressed my hand against her body. Do whatever you want with me, she said. It's your right. The mood was right, and the tension between us had dissolved. I didn't blame her. Given the misunderstanding, her reaction had been incredibly generous, almost unnaturally so. I couldn't condemn her, but this wasn't our home, and we didn't have any supplies for me to do whatever I wanted. Mia pushed me onto the bed, kissing my eyes. It's okay. I'll serve you. Her kisses trailed downward. I remembered that when we were newlyweds, she wasn't this skilled, but she was still captivating. Now, she knew exactly what I liked. We spent the night enjoying each other. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was empty. After washing up, I went downstairs and found Mia feeding the bird. The canary, usually so tame in my hand, was just as affectionate with her. I walked in, and the bird fluttered from Mia's hand to mine. I stroked its head. Such a good baby. The bird chirped happily. Mia looked at me. So baby is the bird too? Baby is the name I gave her. Mia fell silent. Remembering something, I leaned in. So when you called me master, she silenced me with a kiss. It wasn't a deep kiss. I smiled at her. It's the bird's fault. You broke character, Mia. She looked at me steadily and suddenly said, Master. My eyes went wide. It was broad daylight, not the bedroom. I instinctively looked around. If anyone heard that, we'd both be mortified. Mia whispered, I think you like that title in bed. I was embarrassed. After clearing up the misunderstanding, I video called the root of all evil. Jason stared blankly at the yellow bird on my hand. Isn't that the fat chicken you sent me a picture of? That's the canary. I nodded. The next second, he was laughing so hard he couldn't breathe. Ha ha, that kills me. You have a nerve to laugh? I demanded. Jason apologized between laughs. Sorry, my bad, but I didn't spread it. I was at a dinner party when you called. It was loud, so I asked everyone to be quiet and put you on speaker, and then you announced you were keeping a canary. Given your marriage, everyone assumed you meant a mistress. You know me, I have a dirty mind, and so did everyone else there. They love gossip. I told them you were joking, but they didn't listen and spread it anyway. I stayed silent. Jason had always loved trashy internet novels, especially the scandalous ones. Don't worry, this is on me. I'll clear your name. I don't know how Jason did it, but within 2 days, everyone knew I was raising a bright yellow canary and that it was actually a bird. Sarah and Emily, who had wanted to fight me before, came to apologize. Mia and I were staying at the villa for the time being. Sarah looked enviously at the bird in my hand. Mike, where did you get that bird? Mia later told me Sarah used to have a bird, but it liked to peck people. I made a snide comment. I hadn't forgotten how angry they were on Mia's behalf at the gala. Mia's sudden return must have been because her friends tipped her off, spreading rumors without proof. I was generous not to kick them out. Mia stood up to see them out. All right, if there's nothing else, you should go. We're not inviting you for dinner. After they left, Mia leaned in. Are you still angry with me? You can hit me if it helps. I didn't have a penchant for domestic violence, so why would I hit her? But I glared at her anyway. Mia laughed. The bird fluttered up and landed on her shoulder, promptly pooping on her expensive custom-made outfit. The air froze for a second. I laughed and petted the bird as it flew back to me. Good baby. Mia looked helpless, but she laughed too. Some people believed the canary story, others didn't. They seemed to prefer the idea that I had a mistress. William was one of the skeptics. At Mia's mother's birthday party, William cornered me as I came out of the restroom. He glared at me. Mike, since you don't like Mia, why did you marry her? What did I say? I didn't like her. Arranged marriages require compatible status, but you still have to be able to stomach the person. I smiled. Mia is the only daughter of the Sterling family. Do I need to list the benefits of marrying her, Mr. Wentworth? William looked vindicated. You're just after her family's money and power. I shook my head. Of course, and more. I didn't want to argue with him. As I turned to leave, he said, Don't think you've hidden her well. I'll find your mistress sooner or later and expose your true colors to the Sterlings. How could he find someone who didn't exist? I turned back, crossing my arms with amusement. Good luck with that. Mia is rich and beautiful. I wouldn't settle for anyone less than her. William didn't get angry this time. Instead, he looked behind me. I turned around and met Mia's gaze. You were taking a long time and weren't answering your phone, so I came to check on you, Mia said. I was waylaid by your unwanted admirer, I said, wanting to leave. Our CEO, Sterling, is so charming that people are defending her honor, accusing me of cheating and saying I'm not good enough. Mia looked embarrassed. She took my hand and looked at William. William, I don't think the Wentworth family raises its sons to fixate on married women. Please have some self-respect. William's eyes welled up. Mia, why? We knew each other first. My family proposed the alliance first. You said you weren't ready for marriage, and I said I'd wait. But 2 years later, you married him. Mia was unmoved by his tears. Why? Because I was the one eagerly waiting for her to choose me. William froze, and so did I. Mia said, I rejected you clearly, and I never asked you to wait. I like Mike, so I married him. It's that simple. On the way back, I kept glancing at Mia. Curious, I poked her arm. What did you mean by waiting for me to choose you? Mia covered her eyes, tried to avoid the question, but eventually gave in. Fine, I'll confess. I like you. I've liked you for a long time. That was unexpected. I thought she had fallen for me after we got married. Smiling, I asked, why didn't you pursue me back then? Mia looked gloomy. Do you remember what you told other people who pursued you? You said you weren't interested in dating, that you only cared about your career, and that marriage was just a way to advance your business. I paused. I had said things like that to fend off unwanted attention. You should have tried, I teased. Maybe I was just uninterested in them. You're beautiful. Maybe we could have had a high school romance. Mia fell silent. She seemed to regret not trying. Teasing my wife was fun. That night, she was insatiable again. I tugged at the silver chain around her neck, pulled her down for a kiss, and whispered in her ear, Mia, my senior. We went to the same high school. She was a grade above me. The woman on top of me paused, then kissed me with even more tenderness. I coerced and bribed her to confess when she fell for me and why. It took a while, but Mia finally said, I admired you in high school. Later, when you were an adult, you had so many pursuers, and I hated them. You were excellent, and I admire strength. I was satisfied with that answer. I kissed her eyes. Coincidentally, I admire strength too. At 29, Mia gave birth to our daughter. By then, I had firmly established myself in my family's company, and so had Mia. We adored the child. The first thing we did after work was wash and sanitize our hands before holding her. When she was 1, chubby and cute, she started recognizing people and would smile whenever she saw Mia or me. Her mother and I often stayed up late imagining her future, but in the end, we had only one wish, that she be safe and happy. Mia's side story. I wasn't too surprised when I realized I liked Mike. He was handsome, excellent, and had a good personality. It was normal to be attracted to him. We often occupied the same spaces, though not close or in the same grade. We gave speeches on the same stages and attended competitions together. It was hard not to notice him, but there were many who liked him, some superficial, some gentle, yet he accepted none of them. I didn't think of myself as a sentimental person, but even after graduating college and joining the family business, no one else made my heart flutter like he did. When his family was looking for a wife for him, I went home. Soon after, my parents went to discuss a marriage alliance, and he agreed. Married life was mostly what I expected, but with some differences. I knew Mike didn't marry me for love. I once admired his rationality, but it also made me insecure. Then someone told me he had a lover. Friends urged me to divorce him. But why? I was his legal wife. Why should I step aside and let someone else win? I adjusted my work schedule and did my homework. On the subject of how to seduce a man, I knew he had taken the bait, but I still felt a thorn in my heart that I needed to pull out. So I finally summoned the courage to have an open conversation with him. I wanted that woman out of my marriage. To my surprise, Mike was excited and dragged me out that very night to see his canary, a chubby little bird. I had to admit I was the jealous type. After all, I was jealous of a bird. But the thorn vanished without a trace because Mike said he had fallen in love with me after we married. My husband said he loves me.